Welcome back, students of ScholaLatinae. It is I, Wyatt Roder, who, as promised, am here today as a continuation of the previous video on the sources and introduction to Greco-Roman mythology, to talk about Greco-Roman mythology's chronology and what we will call theogony, the creation of the universe according to the Greek account by Hesiod. So without further ado, let's get started. Chronology and mythology, and we're going to start by saying that it definitely makes no sense at times, so don't take it seriously. When you're trying to extrapolate from all these different sources to reconstruct mythology, or at least reconstruct a timeline of mythology, a lot of things conflict. For example, and this actually is a decent explanation, the Cretan king Minos seems to have lived for way too long, as he is one of the first sons of Zeus in Greek mythology, but then he survives all the way to a few generations before the Trojan War, being the grandfather of a significant Greek hero, Idomeneus. And that span of time is just unreasonably long for any person. So the explanation is that the name Minos is actually just a dynastic title of Cretan kings, and thus there are many different Minoses. But you can get the idea that mythology is whack when we look at chronology. In any case, though, there are canonical ages of mythology, five of which are given to us by Hesiod, and these are the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Heroic Age, and the Iron Age. And then Ovid gives a similar account in the Metamorphoses, but he omits the Heroic Age, and I think seems to put the events in the Iron Age, if not the Bronze Age. But the Heroic Age, as we will see on this next slide, is basically where all the main mythological events of mortals occurred. So these are those of Heracles, Theseus, Perseus, Bellerophon, and many, many others, all lie in Hesiod's Heroic Age. And then we have a nice quote here about the Golden Age, since both Hesiod and Ovid and many other accounts conceived a Golden Age as being basically a perfect time, a paradise for all of humanity, until it got messed up one way or another. So yes, like I said, there is this is kind of a timeline of the Heroic Age, and it's not completely accurate in that a lot of these events in the boar hunt and Argonaut section actually overlap. So Heracles didn't fully happen before the events of Theseus. In fact, they teamed up at some point. But this is a rather good timeline in any case, showing how kind of the events of the Heroic Age occur and in what order. It is missing, though, significantly, the event of the Epigeny, and after the Seven against Thebes, but it is a good timeline and worth looking at if you're interested in that. So now let's talk quickly about Theogony, which is Hesiod's work, and it, like I said, it tells about the beginnings of the Greek or the universe as the Greeks imagined it. So all things started with this primordial void, chaos. Chaos is, I think, said to have emerged first, so there was literally just nothing, and then chaos came out of it. And chaos is exactly what it sounds like, just this conglomeration of nothingness and at the same time everything. And it makes no sense. But out of chaos come Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros. Now, Gaia is the earth. Tartarus is the area within the earth, perhaps the underworld. And then Eros, as you may know, is the Greek god of love. But because the idea of love is such a potent and strong thing, at least as the Greeks thought, Hesiod imagined Eros as coming as one of the first gods, rather than being, as you may have heard, a son of Aphrodite. In fact, that is a later tradition where he's a son of Aphrodite. And yes, so if I have not indicated enough yet, Eros is important as the force of love that kind of allows these unions between other primordial deities to occur. So you can't really have any further procreation without Eros as a force within the universe, and that probably explains why he is one of the first to rise. Chaos has Erebus, which is just basically darkness, and Nyx, which is the night. And then they together have Either and Hemera. Hemera being dawn, and then Either being like the air, the atmosphere, perhaps. Gaia herself has Oranos, or Uranus, which is the sky, and as well as the Aurea, which are the mountains, and Pontus, the sea. And then we have this nice depiction down here of chaos. It's quite wild. Kind of these like really mystical beings coming out of this mass over on the left here. And then over here is some depiction of Gaia, I believe. All right. So Gaia then couples with her son, Oranos, and they produce the Cyclopes, or the Cyclopses, the Titans, and the Hecatoncheires. And these three groups are going to be kind of the stimulus for the action that starts more of Greek mythology. But to talk about them quickly, you may know the Cyclopses, or the Cyclopes, as the Greeks would have said, to be the one-eyed giants. And the ones that Hesiod mentions are Brontes, Seropes, and Arges, though there is later Polyphemus and perhaps other Cyclopses that are mentioned by later authors. And then we have the Titans, very many of which are in this genealogical table. The Titans, many of them don't really have stories beyond just being like primordial forces, and very vaguely defined ones at that, like their parents. But really, the only significance of Coeus and Phoebe and Thea in mythology are that they have children who do more significant things. Um, Okay, and to note, this is the first generation of Titans as well. There are like arguably more Titans that will come to exist. For example, you might be thinking about Atlas here, or Helios, um, and whether those are Titans or not is debatable. And like they are the children of Titans, or two Titans, but some think that like two Titans come together, they generate a god or whatever. It's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. But yeah. Um, okay, and then we have the Hecatoncheires to briefly touch upon. And they're really cool. They literally mean in Greek the 100-handers, because they had 100 hands and 50 heads. So you can find some kind of wacky and very interesting artistic depictions of them. Um, and yeah, they're interesting. Okay, and finally now, we're going to talk about the succession of Kronos. So, as you may know, Kronos is a very significant figure in early mythology, as the story goes about him eating his children, which we will cover in the future. But how does Kronos get into such a position where he is the eater of children, god of everything, the lord of the universe? Well, what he does is he murders his father, Oranos. So Oranos is forcing Gaia to harbor all their children within her. Gaia finds this super uncomfortable, so she tells her son Kronos, go kill your dad. And Kronos notably castrates Oranos with the sickle, and thereby becomes king of the universe. The blood of Uranos, falls into the ocean, or just kind of spreads throughout the universe, and it generates Aphrodite, the Furies, and the Melii. The Melii just being ash nymphs, who are not significant beyond fathering some, or like coming with a god, Zeus, and having some children. Um, Aphrodite, she comes out of the sea, as you may know, and her name, in fact, seems to mean Aphros, and then like a dite thing, which means like born from sea foam, though it might not actually be etymologically formed that way. The ancients understood her as being like born from sea foam, and that's what her name meant. While the Furies also came from the blood of Oranos, and they are the kind of forces, some forces of evil that exist in the Greek universe. Uh, they kind of uh, are the impetus for certain events in which people go mad, go crazy, cause a lot of mythological conflict there. So they are certainly important primordial forces. Um, and yeah, and then here we have Zeus, or Kronos, about to kill Uranus, and then a very famous painting by Sandro Botticelli, The Birth of Venus. Over here we have Zephyr holding Aura, uh, and then some woman I don't know over here, but you get the idea. A very famous painting. Venus slash Aphrodite came from the sea. And that is all we have to talk about for today. So stay tuned for future ScholaLatinae videos. And with that having been said, goodbye.